Hong Kong, 1958. A small gym in Kowloon, full of dust and the smell of sweat. Bruce Lee was barely 18 years old, but he already considered himself invincible. He had won his school's boxing championship. He had fought in the streets of Hong Kong dozens of times, and he had never lost. That Thursday afternoon would change everything. That afternoon, Bruce Lee would learn the most humiliating and most important lesson of his life. And it all happened in exactly 4 seconds. The story begins 3 weeks earlier. Bruce was training Wing Chun with his master, Yip Man. But Bruce was not like the other students. He was impatient, arrogant, always questioning traditional techniques. During one training session, Bruce told Yip Man that the traditional forms were too slow, too complicated for a real fight. Yip Man, a man of infinite patience, simply smiled and told him that he still had much to learn. Bruce interpreted that smile as weakness. He thought his master was too old, too tied to ancient traditions to understand modern combat. That night, Bruce went to one of the underground fight clubs in Kowloon. These places were illegal, dangerous, frequented by sailors, criminals, and street fighters. Bruce loved that environment. There were no rules, no traditional forms, just pure violence. That night, Bruce fought 3 different opponents and won all 3 fights. Each victory fed his ego. After the 3rd fight, while collecting his betting money, an older man approached him. The man was about 50 years old, gray hair, thin but muscular build. He wore simple clothes, nothing flashy. He spoke in Cantonese with a northern China accent. The man told Bruce that he had watched his fights. He said that Bruce had speed and aggressiveness, but that his technique was careless, full of gaps. Bruce, still riding the adrenaline from his victories, laughed. He asked the man if he could do better. The man did not answer directly. Instead, he asked Bruce a strange question. He asked Bruce if he had ever fought someone who really knew kung fu, not street fighters, but a true master. Bruce replied arrogantly that traditional kung fu did not work in real fights, that it was only for demonstrations and movies. The man nodded slowly, as if he had expected that answer. Then he said something that Bruce would never forget. He said, "You are fast, young Bruce Lee, but speed without wisdom is just wasted motion. Come to my gym next Thursday at 4 in the afternoon. I will show you the difference between fighting and combating." Then, without waiting for a response, the man turned around and left. Bruce asked the other fighters who that man was. No one knew for sure, but one of the fight organizers told him that he had heard rumors about a kung fu master from the north who lived in Kowloon, someone who had been a bodyguard for government officials in mainland China before the Communist Revolution, someone who had killed men with his hands. Bruce should have felt intimidated. He should have been cautious. But instead, he felt excited. He saw this as an opportunity to prove that traditional kung fu was obsolete, that his modern and aggressive approach was superior. Over the next week, Bruce trained intensely. He practiced his fastest combinations, his strongest strikes. He told some of his friends about the challenge, and 3 of them insisted on accompanying him as witnesses. Thursday arrived. Bruce and his 3 friends found the address that the man had left with the fight organizer. It was an old building on a quiet side street. The gym was on the 2nd floor, accessible by a narrow wooden staircase that creaked with every step. When they entered, they were surprised. The space was small, perhaps 15 square meters, with low ceilings and dirty windows that barely let in light. There was no modern equipment, no punching bags, no mirrors. Just a worn wooden floor, some traditional weapons hanging on the walls, spears, swords, staffs, and a small altar with incense in the corner. The man was there, waiting. He was dressed in traditional Chinese training clothes, loose black pants and a sleeveless shirt that revealed surprisingly muscular arms for his age. When Bruce entered, the man did not smile, did not make formal bows. He simply said, "You came. Good. Your friends can stay, but they must remain silent." Bruce, trying to appear confident, asked the man's name. The man replied, "Names do not matter. What matters is what you can learn in the next few minutes." Then, the man walked to the center of the open space and gestured for Bruce to approach. Bruce took off his jacket and positioned himself in front of the man, assuming his fighting stance, a modified Wing Chun stance mixed with elements of Western boxing. The man observed Bruce's stance for several seconds without saying anything. Then he spoke. "Your stance has 7 weaknesses. Your shoulders are too tense. Your weight is too far forward. Your guard is too low on the left side. Your feet are too close together. Your chin is too exposed. Your eyes are looking at my hands instead of my center. And most importantly, you are thinking about attacking instead of understanding." Bruce felt insulted. He responded aggressively, "Talking is easy. Show me what's wrong." The man nodded. "Very well, I am going to attack you once. Only once. Your job is to defend yourself. If you can block or evade my attack, I admit that your method is valid. If you cannot, then you listen to what I have to teach you. Agreed?" Bruce accepted immediately. He thought this would be easy. He had blocked thousands of punches in street fights. His reflexes were excellent. The man stepped back 3 paces, creating distance between them. Then he assumed a stance that Bruce did not recognize. It was low, with one leg forward and one back, the hands positioned in a strange way, one high near his face, the other low near his hip. For 3 full seconds, no one moved. The gym was completely silent except for the distant sound of traffic on the street. Bruce's friends watched intently. Bruce kept his guard high, his eyes fixed on the man, waiting for any sign of movement. And then it happened. The man moved. But it was not as Bruce expected. There was no visible preparation, no tension in the shoulders, no change in facial expression. One moment the man was still, and the next moment his front foot slid forward while his rear hand shot forward in a straight line. Bruce tried to react. His brain registered the movement. He tried to raise his left arm to block, but his arm did not move fast enough. The man's fist passed through his guard as if it did not exist and struck Bruce directly in the solar plexus, the soft spot just below the sternum where all the nerves meet. The impact was not strong in terms of brute force. It was not like being hit by a heavyweight boxer. It was something different. It was precise, penetrating, as if the fist had gone through the skin and muscles and touched the internal nerves directly. Bruce felt all the air leave his lungs instantly. His legs lost strength. His vision blurred. He fell forward onto his knees, gasping, unable to breathe, unable to understand what had happened. The pain was not sharp. It was paralyzing, as if his entire central nervous system had temporarily shut down. He tried to stand up, but his legs did not respond. He tried to speak, but he could not form words. Bruce's friends instinctively moved forward, thinking he needed help, but the man raised a hand to stop them. He spoke calmly. "He is fine. He is not injured. He is just experiencing what happens when the body is struck correctly. Wait." Bruce remained on his knees for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 15 or 20 seconds. Slowly, very slowly, his breathing returned. The paralyzing pain began to subside. He could see clearly again. He could move his fingers, then his arms, then finally, with great effort, he stood up. He was trembling, not from fear, but from shock. In 18 years of fighting, in dozens of street fights, he had never been defeated so completely and so quickly. The man waited patiently until Bruce was fully standing and stable. Then he spoke. "How long do you think my attack lasted?" Bruce, still recovering, answered in a hoarse voice, "I don't know, maybe 2 seconds." The man shook his head. 4 seconds. From the moment I began to move until the moment you fell, 4 seconds. And in those 4 seconds, you learned more about real combat than you learned in all your street fights combined. Bruce, humiliated but unable to deny the truth, asked, "How? How did you do it? I was watching. I was ready. But I couldn't react." The man walked slowly around Bruce as he spoke. "You failed to react because you were looking for the wrong signals. You were waiting for my shoulders to tense, for my eyes to narrow, for my weight to shift visibly. But I trained to eliminate all those signals. My strike comes from my center, from my internal structure, not from my external muscles." He continued, "Real kung fu, the kung fu that was taught to bodyguards and soldiers, is not about pretty forms or acrobatic movements. It is about absolute efficiency. It is about ending a confrontation in the shortest time possible with the least effort necessary. 4 seconds. That is all the time you need if you understand the correct principles." Bruce, still processing the experience, asked, "Why didn't you hit me in the face? Why the solar plexus?" The man smiled for the first time. "Because I did not come here to hurt you or humiliate you. I came to teach you. A strike to the face would have caused visible damage, blood, swelling, wounded pride. A strike to the solar plexus causes temporary paralysis, but no lasting damage. It teaches the lesson without destroying your spirit." One of Bruce's friends, who had been watching in silence, finally spoke. "Who are you? Where did you learn to fight like that?" The man turned to him. "I learned in places where fighting was not a sport or a hobby. It was survival. I was a bodyguard for a Kuomintang officer during the Chinese Civil War. I saw real combat, not gym fights. When your life depends on your skill, you quickly learn what works and what doesn't. He turned back to Bruce. You have natural talent, speed, aggressiveness, courage. But talent without refinement is like a sword without an edge. It may look impressive, but it cannot cut. Bruce, his ego completely shattered, but his mind completely open, asked the question that would change his life. Would you teach me? Would you teach me what you know? The man studied him for a long moment. Then he replied, You already have a master. Yip Man is an excellent man, and the Wing Chun he teaches is profound. But I see that you are not ready to appreciate what he offers you. You still believe you know better. Bruce began to protest, but the man interrupted him. Do not deny it. I see it in how you stand, how you speak, how you look at others. You believe that because you are young and fast, you are superior to the ancient methods. The man continued, I will not teach you techniques, but I will give you something more valuable. I will give you 3 principles. If you truly understand them, they will transform your entire approach to combat. If you do not understand them, then you were not meant to learn. Bruce, now completely humble, nodded. Please, tell me. The man raised one finger. First principle. Speed is not how fast you move. It is how quickly you arrive. You can have the fastest punch in the world, but if it has to travel a long distance, or if your opponent sees the strike coming, you are slow. True speed is about shortening the distance and eliminating telegraphing signals. He raised a second finger. Second principle. Power does not come from muscles. It comes from structure and timing. A small man with perfect structure and perfect timing can generate more power than a large man with poor structure. This is physics, not magic. When I struck your solar plexus, I did not use arm strength. I used my entire body as a connected unit, transferring energy from the ground through my legs, hips, torso, and finally through my fist. Everything aligned perfectly in a single moment. He raised a third finger. Third principle. Real combat is not about winning. It is about not losing. It sounds the same, but it is completely different. When you fight to win, you focus on attacking, on dominating, on proving your superiority. When you fight not to lose, you focus on protection, efficiency, ending the threat with the least risk to yourself. The first is ego, the second is survival. The man lowered his hand. These 3 principles are the foundation of all effective combat. Different styles express them in different ways, but all effective systems contain these truths. Bruce absorbed every word. For the first time in his life, he was not thinking about how to argue or prove he knew better. He was simply listening, learning. He asked, How do I practice these principles? The man replied, Return to Yip Man, but this time, when he teaches you the Wing Chun forms, do not see them as meaningless ancient movements. Look for these 3 principles within them. Wing Chun already contains everything I told you. Yip Man has been trying to teach you this all along, but you were not ready to see it. Bruce felt ashamed. He had been so busy questioning his master that he had not really listened to the deeper lessons. The man continued, Traditional forms are not the fight itself. They are the alphabet. Once you understand the alphabet, you can write any word, any sentence. But if you reject the alphabet because it seems simple or ancient, you will never be able to write anything meaningful. He paused, then added, Yip Man will teach you the alphabet. Street fights will teach you how the words sound in the real world, but only you can combine both into true wisdom. Bruce asked, Will I see you again? Can I come back here to train? The man shook his head. No, this lesson was enough. If you return, it will be because you are still seeking external validation, still trying to prove something. True learning happens when you stop looking for masters and start looking for truth. He walked toward the door, signaling that the session was over. Before Bruce and his friends left, the man said one last thing. In 10 years, if you truly understand what I showed you today, you will be unstoppable. But only if you let your ego die today on this floor. Bruce and his friends descended the stairs in complete silence. It was not until they were on the street that one of them spoke. That was incredible. I have never seen anything like it. Are you going back? Bruce shook his head slowly. No, he is right. I do not need to go back to him. I need to go back to Yip Man with new eyes. That night, Bruce did not go to the fight club. Instead, he went straight to Yip Man's school. His master was there, practicing forms alone in the empty training space. Bruce bowed deeply, more deeply than he ever had before. Yip Man, surprised by this unusual behavior, asked what had happened. Bruce told him everything: the challenge, the defeat in 4 seconds, the 3 principles. Yip Man listened without interrupting. When Bruce finished, Yip Man smiled, that same gentle smile that Bruce had misinterpreted as weakness. Yip Man said, "That man gave you a gift. He showed you your ignorance without destroying your spirit. That is true mastery." Then he added, "Everything he told you, I have been trying to teach you for 2 years. But sometimes, a student needs to hear the truth in a different way before he can understand it." From that day on, Bruce Lee completely changed his approach to training. He stopped questioning every technique that Yip Man taught. Instead, he practiced each form with total attention, seeking the deeper principles within them. He began to see how Wing Chun incorporated exactly what the mysterious man had described: economy of motion, structure over muscular strength, simultaneous protection with attack. He continued fighting in the street clubs, but his approach changed. He no longer fought to prove his superiority. He fought to test the principles, to see what worked under real pressure. Years later, when Bruce Lee developed his own system, Jeet Kune Do, the 3 principles he learned that day in that dusty small gym were at its absolute core. The idea of intercepting, of shortening distance and eliminating wasted movements, that was the first principle. The idea of using the entire body as a connected unit, that was the second principle. The idea that combat is about efficiency and survival, not about style or ego, that was the third principle. Bruce never saw the mysterious man again. He asked about him several times in the following years, but no one seemed to know who he was or where he had gone. Some said he had returned to mainland China. Others said he had died. Bruce never knew for certain. But the lesson remained. 4 seconds. That is all it took to completely change the trajectory of Bruce Lee's life. 4 seconds to destroy his arrogance. 4 seconds to open his mind. 4 seconds to teach him that true mastery is not about how much you know, but about how much you are willing to learn. When Bruce Lee became famous decades later, when he became a legend of film and martial arts, he occasionally told this story to his closest students. He told them that the most important moment in his development was not when he won a championship or when he starred in his first movie. It was when an older man put him on his knees in 4 seconds and taught him humility. True mastery, Bruce would tell them, is not never being defeated. It is being defeated and choosing to learn instead of making excuses. It is letting your ego die so that your skill can live. Those 4 seconds in 1958 contained more wisdom than 1,000 victories, and Bruce Lee carried that lesson with him for the rest of his life.